So I'm going to try to keep this one short and sweet, okay? Based on the events that I have dealt with for the past week and actually the past year, I feel like I need to make this video and really clarify my mentality on the way I perceive life and the way I perceive certain aspects of the world. So I'm going to be titling this video, Why I Don't Pick Sides. Now, what does that mean? It's a very broad title. Could I be talking about something within a specific kind of fandom? Could it be something like where there's a conflict between my friends or family and I happen to be a neutral party? Could I be talking about something political? It's sort of a combination of a lot of those things. And it's something I've thought about a lot and has affected me a lot in the past week and also in the past year of my career here on YouTube. I don't like to associate myself with any sort of movement. It's not what I like to do, and I choose not to associate with any kind of movement. And I'll tell you why. I like to think for myself. When I was a little kid, I got bullied a lot and picked on a lot, and all I wanted to do was fit in. And as an adult, because I realized how human beings can be and how the world is, I went the complete opposite. Now I'd rather not fit into a group, and I'll literally tell you why right now. Whenever you attach yourself to a movement, or whenever somebody attaches you to a movement or a philosophy or an idealistic belief, then they assign all of the baggage, all of the stereotypes, and all of the philosophy behind this movement to you. So then when you want to have an actual conversation, they tend to assume and assert, many times labeling you based on other individuals that have similar philosophies or are part of that movement without having a clue about what you actually are thinking, how you are feeling, and how you perceive that said opinion. So because of that association that you have with that movement, people are going to assert and assume that they know everything about you just based on that association. And one thing I've learned in my years on this planet is that human beings are a lot more complex than that. And that's why I have always and will always hate labels. Always. And the reality is that is not the right way to have an actual conversation. It's just not. And we have now the internet where we have billions of people on it. We have social media. We have all this huge surge of information. Too much for the human brain to process at once, obviously, which is why we choose who we follow, subscribe to, etc., etc. And not enough time to digest all that information. And you can't have a conversation like that or get to know a person like that. The reality is that most of you know less than 1% about me. And I know less than 1% about you. And that's not a bad thing, necessarily. But what ends up happening is that when you associate yourself with a movement or an idealistic opinion, like I said, it becomes your identity. And that's never been my deal. That's never been what I've wanted to be. I'm a free thinker. I'm an individual human. I am myself. I don't belong with any movement. And it's always very, very bad when you assign a label to somebody and try to assert what's going to happen before it happens, or try to figure out their opinion or assume their opinion when you don't know anything. And what's even worse than that is when you try to spread this as being factual or being a statement of truth, when the reality is you've never had a conversation with the person, an actual intelligent adult conversation, so you're literally slandering them without realizing it. Not saying it's always a malicious thing, and in many cases I do feel flattered that people try to associate me with their own belief system in some cases, but at the same time it's also very dangerous because that is not necessarily the case, especially with me, because my opinions are very much a variable. And as a person, I do have the right to change my mind on things if I am presented compelling enough data to where I feel like it's worth it. Or I might just not care, because the reality is I have a lot of things that I try to focus on that I have to get done. My projects, my channels, I have friends and family to take care of. I have things that I have to do, and I'm just too busy oftentimes to concern myself with issues that are outside of my own control. And these things get really nasty when you have religion and politics involved, which is why I choose to keep that kind of stuff out of my content. You know, I've seen with my own eyes Christians and atheists have these debates that go nowhere. And a lot of times it ends up going into this realm of name calling, where because a person associates themselves as an atheist or as a non-theist, you'll have a Christian condemn them to hell or call them a God hater or say they have no soul and all kinds of mean things. Concordingly, you'll have an atheist label a Christian an idiot for believing in an invisible man in the sky. I mean, I've seen these conversations happen. And it's not the right way to have a conversation. It's very narrow-minded. It's very one-sided. And it's also very judgmental. It's very judgmental. No matter what you may believe in, there is one fact that every single human being on this planet shares, besides our biological similarities. And that is the fact that every single one of us have done something wrong. And the important thing is that if you feel like you have done something wrong, to do your best to make up for it, apologize, and try to move forward. Not everybody does this because of other factors, ego, social pressures, etc. But to me, it's the right thing to do. And you may not agree with me. That's fine. You don't have to. The entire point of this video is to say this. I don't like movements. I don't like labels. I don't like being a part of a group, and I personally don't need it because we are way too complex to be put into this little group and labeled something, especially when the other side doesn't know what's really going through your head, what you are thinking, or what you actually value. Because at the end of the day, most of us just want to be respected and loved and listened to. Think about that. Thanks for listening.